I want to start today by really wanting to highlight the work that our water crews have been doing over the last week out in the field. Yesterday, we had over 40 water main breaks, and these crews have been working around the clock for the last week, responding to water line breaks throughout the city. If you can imagine the kind of work that entails, that's folks out in wind chills that are -15 to -20, and they're exposed to water and getting wet and having to work through that and do so in an emergency environment where they're trying to get each water main fixed as quickly as possible. It's an extraordinarily difficult job in the midst of this current weather event. And I think these are members of our team at the city that a lot of the time people don't really appreciate them unless you turn on your faucet and the water doesn't come out. And yet they are out there all day long and all night right now, making sure that you and your family have water come into your home and going through grueling circumstances to do that. And so I just can't thank them enough. I hope that if citizens see them out in the field, that you will take an opportunity to thank them because they're just doing amazing work right now. On that, I would ask, as I did yesterday, for the help of my fellow Tulsans. We continue to have folks trying to drive around snow plows, trying to drive around water line crews, trying to drive around even police officers who are responding to stranded motorists and fire trucks that are at the scene of emergencies. You're not as good at driving on ice as you think you are. And so please slow down and give them plenty of room. These are, all of them at this moment, are first responders working out in the field to help protect the lives of our neighbors. And they don't need to be worrying about getting hit by a car or having their vehicle struck or disabled because you're in such a hurry that you're going to try and drive right by them. So please slow down, give them plenty of room to work, and we can all move ahead with our day in a safe, responsible way. We have a number of city services that are being impacted and are closed today. Our refuse service for homes is moving very gradually. I know for our family, our recycle bin has been in front of our house waiting to be picked up for about 5 days now, and that's fine. We want our crews that are having to work in this environment to be safe. And so they are moving through their routes as they can safely. As we've talked about in these meetings before, our capacity to clear streets right now is almost entirely focused on arterial streets, the main streets in Tulsa. And so neighborhood streets are not getting the type of clearance and treatment that those main streets are. And that makes it a lot tougher for our refuse and recycling crews to get back and do their work. So please, if your day has come to have your trash picked up and they didn't show up, just leave it at the curb. That's what we're doing in our house, and they will get there as soon as they can do so safely and pick your stuff up. Similarly, Tulsa Parks community centers are closed today due to cold weather. The city clerk's office is not going to have any in-person services today. If you need assistance from the city clerk's office, you can reach them by email, cityclerk@cityoftulsa.org, or call them. We are going to hear from ONG and PSO in a minute, but I want you to be assured that our team is prepared if there are rolling power outages, as we've seen elsewhere in Oklahoma and Texas and the region. If we have those here in Tulsa, our team at the City of Tulsa has spent a lot of time preparing for continuity of operations in that instance, and we'll be ready to keep continuing serving the citizens of Tulsa should those power outages become necessary here in our community. Let's see, anything else I need to touch on here? You know, one thing that we found, the Tulsa Fire Department is having to spend a lot of time responding to broken water lines in homes. One thing that you can do to help out our firefighters is proactively identify where your water line shutoff valve is. And if you do have a pipe break, you can go out there and turn it off, and you won't need the fire department to come do it for you. Now, there's a lot of things that all of us can do to prevent our water lines from breaking. The City of Tulsa has a really good list of things that you can do on the city website, cityoftulsa.org. Of course, one of the most important things is just to keep any cabinets underneath sinks or other faucets open so that they're getting air circulation. Make sure you get any poisonous materials or cleaning materials out of there so that kids or pets don't get into it. And then leave your faucets on a drip and make sure that they continue to do that to relieve pressure in the pipe and to keep water flowing through it. Again, that's something that I've become a little probably overzealous about in my house. I'm up in the middle of the night checking every dang faucet in our house and encourage everybody else to do the same so you can keep your water lines active. And I've heard from a number of folks throughout the community who've had their pipes freeze up during this event. And that's a small thing that you can do to give yourself better odds of avoiding that. Again, I just want to thank all of our city crews, our police officers, our firefighters, our water line crews, our storm water and our sewer crews, and especially the street crews who've now been working around the clock for over a week, keeping our streets clear. And we have the highest rated vehicle maintenance team of any city government in North America. And those folks are working around the clock to keep the trucks running, to keep the plows operational. And we just cannot thank them enough for the work that they're doing to allow all of us to be able to go about our lives in the midst of this really prolonged weather event here in our community. And now I'll turn it over to a guy who knows a lot more about keeping the streets clear than I do, Tim McCorkell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we still have crews running around the clock. We continue to plow. We plowed all through the midnight hours, and we had a shift change at midnight, and so new crews are continuing to plow along the arterial streets. Our main focus is getting everything pushed all the way to the curb, so we've got room to continue plowing when this newest event comes in, because there could be a significant snow with that. I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out to a couple people. I know it's been mentioned once, but a young man by the name of Drew Biles and his mother Jamie had put together a Facebook post and collected money because the young man wanted to help feed these employees, and he brought by like 24 pizzas and a couple dozen 12 packs of pop, and also I had the marketing manager from Whataburger contact me yesterday, and so Whataburger is going to send enough food at the shift change this noon to feed about 200 people. So it's greatly appreciated that these people are really thinking of the crews that are out there, because these men and women both are in these trucks on 12-hour shifts. So I know they go home to their families and they don't get as much rest as you think they would, but they continue to come in, and we got a ways to go yet with what's going on. So if we do get a little bit of break in the weather and the temperatures rise enough, we will salt some of the hills today. If it does get to 15, we can get it to activate pretty good, where we can get some relief on the hills before this next snow comes in. But otherwise, the roads still are snow packed. So you really need to be cautious in driving around in the city. There's some lanes that have your wheel lanes are clear, so you can get good traction, but a lot of them, like I said, are still snowpacked. So until we get this next event through and get it plowed off, we're probably not going to get that snowpack off there. But at that time, we're going to get a warmer weather where we can really get the snow to activate, and we'll get that snowpack down to pavement and get the roads completely clear. So I just appreciate all the work that all the employees have done. They've really hung in there and done a good job. And as the mayor said, without the mechanics, we can't keep running. We average probably 3 blade changes per truck in a 24-hour period. So you're kind of like a NASCAR team in there. When a truck comes in, they get that blade off and another one back on, so that the people in the trucks can get right back out there and continue plowing without stopping. So that's what we have at this time.
Thank you, Tim. I'm gonna bring Stan online. Stan, you have the floor.
All right, very, very good. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone yesterday who helped us get out the message regarding outages and the outage situation. And I know that we tend to use a term different from what everybody else is using. People are using this rolling blackouts term. And I would just say that from our standpoint, blackout is not a appropriate description, but I don't want to mince words too much here or split hairs, but a blackout in itself means something that's uncontrolled. What we're doing right now, and have just started again this morning at the direction of the SPP, is to initiate some more controlled interruptions of service for short periods of time. Just this morning, the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP, had just declared again an emergency level 3, which they did yesterday for the first time, and which for that 1 hour period, we did some controlled disruptions of service. However, that has started again this morning. We have just been alerted to that, and we are just now in the earliest stages of beginning to do some coordinated service interruptions. At this moment, none of those are in the Tulsa area specifically, or the Tulsa metro. We have just a typical power outage going on right now, but throughout Northeast Oklahoma right now, we have interrupted service to about 4,500 customers. And throughout the entire PSO footprint, including Western Oklahoma, we have interrupted service to about 9,000 customers total right now. And as you recall, this is the type of thing that these customers, whenever we take this type of an interruption, it will be between 1 to 2 hours at the max. And then those customers will come back on and different circuits will then roll off. So our goal is to not have any particular area or any particular city or town of the 232 that we serve to be carrying that whole load itself. So we will spread these out. They won't last no longer than 1 to 2 hours, and then move on to the next group. Now, the thing that can really happen to help this, as you recall, yesterday we were in this situation for about a 1 hour period from about 12:15 to 1:15. And then the situation eased up a little bit and we were able to back off, and SPP went back to a level 2 emergency. So I think we can expect to see this going back and forth. Hopefully sometime during the day, things will ease up again and we'll be able to get back out of that. But the most important thing that can happen right now is for everybody to continue being conservative in their use of electricity and natural gas as well. And I don't want to speak for ONG, let them take that. But that will do a lot to help reduce the load. And anything that we can do to help reduce the load means that we are getting closer and closer to not having to do those coordinated interruptions. So that's where we are right now. We would expect that to last into tomorrow, this type of situation, at least maybe into Thursday. Just depends on when the power and fuel supplies kind of ease up and allow all the generating units within the SPP footprint to get back online as much as possible and to be providing power to the grid.
Thank you, Stan. We'll bring Alex up from O&G. Oh, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, and good morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to update everybody today. Since last Friday, Oklahoma Natural Gas employees have been working around the clock to do everything they can to keep the service up and running. We want to thank the Tulsa community for responding to those calls to energy conservation that Stan just mentioned. Given the historic nature of this prolonged extreme weather, it really is going to take all of us to avoid a large outage situation. We continue to need the public's help to reduce the number of people who could potentially lose service during these extremely cold conditions. Since early this morning, we've had no significant outages given the deteriorating weather conditions. However, with below freezing temperatures forecast through the end of the week, we are planning for shortages and putting measures in place to keep gas service to all our customers and critical facilities. That's why we're asking for your help. Conservation, again, as Stan mentioned, truly the name of the game, and conservation is working thus far for us in terms of urging everyone to keep it up and remain vigilant. Our suppliers are experiencing freezing gas wells due to the duration of the extreme cold. So this impacts the amount of gas they're able to provide to us. Again, that's why we're so focused on conservation. So when it comes to conservation, there are some very small actions everyone can take that could result in big impacts as more people do it. We've posted these conservation tips on our website, oklahomanaturalgas.com/severe cold. Some of these tips include lowering the thermostat by a few degrees, adjusting the temperature on your water heater, and simply taking a break from doing laundry and washing dishes. Again, as a reminder, we're putting these updates online. We're trying to keep everybody informed on our social channels, Facebook and Twitter. We're also answering questions there. So we encourage the public to keep doing that. Again, thank you in advance for conserving and helping us keep our community safe and warm. If we all do our part, it definitely can reduce the number of people who could lose their natural gas service in these extremely cold conditions. So thank you again, and a shout out to all the workers, city workers. I know there's a lot of work going on, all the employees at the city level and across the state. So thank you again for the time.
Thank you, sir. Bring Joe KRALICEK with TAEMA online. Joe?
Thank you very much. Throughout the evening, TAEMA and EOC staff have been responding and working on preparing for the snowstorm that we're anticipating later this afternoon. The EOC has been working to provide assistance to multiple operations overnight, including the rescue of assisting in the rescue of helicopter crew after an emergency landing last night, relocation of a group of sheltered individuals from a hotel after water damage from broken pipes displaced them, and helping to prepare the lot for the COVID clinic out at Expo in order to ensure that people can get their shots safe and secure environment today. The thing that really came to mind last night was that all of these events are fairly simple operations that were complicated by the extreme temperatures and the weather. And so the real concern that we have is that if our response community that is very prepared to work in adverse and extreme environments is having difficulty, most people need to be very aware of how difficult it is to actually get out and operate in this type of environment. So we really want to urge people to continue to stay home throughout the day if possible. If you do have to go outside, we need to make sure that you're limiting your time outside. Wear layers of warm clothing. Even if you think you're only going out for a few minutes, make sure that you're dressing as if you're going to be out for hours. Because you never know what's going to happen. Even if you're going out in your vehicle and you think it's normally very dependable, this type of cold is extremely difficult and rough on machinery. And so expect cars to fail if you need to. So if you have to go out and you need to go, make sure that your car has jumper cables, some sand for traction, flashlight, warm clothes, blankets, take some bottled water with you, maybe keep a couple snacks, and try to keep your gas tank as close to full as possible throughout this event. in case you do get stranded somewhere so your car can continue to run. Make sure your vehicle is in good operating order before you try to take it out into this type of environment. As we go through the issue with the controlled outages throughout the area, we want to make sure that people are aware of safe ways to continue to heat their home if they need to. The big issue that we're starting to see is we are starting to see an increase in carbon monoxide related calls. And so we want to urge people to try to avoid producing carbon monoxide in their home. Don't heat your home with a gas oven or your stove. That's just not a safe way to do it. If you have a generator, make sure that you're running your generator well away from your doors and windows. Don't try to run anything inside. Basically, if you're having to burn some sort of source inside for fuel, don't do it. Is the easiest way to handle that. So that's really the messages that we need to be getting out is stay indoors where it's safe. If you do have to go outside, be safe about it, and don't use fuel sources like your stove and your oven to heat your home out of risk of carbon monoxide. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll open it up for questions. If you guys just want to unmute yourselves and direct your question, I'll pull the speaker up for you.
Hi, this is Chris Polanski with KWGS for Joe. Do you have updated numbers for the various types of calls and transports? And I know last week we sadly saw the gentleman who froze to death. Do we have any additional fatalities from the weather?
Not that I have available right now. As far as different types of calls, I'd recommend reach out to those entities. We could see if we can get those numbers for you and have them delivered to you later today if you'd like.
I can speak to Chris's question, not with specific numbers, but I can tell you what I'm hearing from police department and fire department, which is police department said that they saw a real downtick in calls for service, but yesterday it started to pick back up as people were getting out and about. Also a little bit of an elevation in domestic violence calls with people locked up in their homes for a prolonged period of time in a stressful environment. And on the fire side, again, a lot of the main anomaly in what they're seeing is calls for assistance when water lines in homes are breaking. They're seeing they've responded to a fair number in the last 48 hours of people who've slipped on the ice as well. That's one thing they asked me to get out there, and I forgot to mention earlier is that it is very icy out in this, and if you don't have to get out and walk around, they encourage folks not to do so.
Thank you both.
I have a question for Tim. This is Megan with Channel 8, by the way. We're seeing more than 80 water main breaks, but I know you guys don't have 80 teams to address them all at one time. How many teams do you have, and how are you able to keep up with all of it, and why are we seeing so many breaks at one time?
Well, that would be more for the water department. I'm not sure how many crews they have out, but they do contact us to assist in addressing the freezing issues. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's some areas out there where the water breaks are, it will build up more ice, which is real troublesome to get off. And so it's really rough in those areas. That's another reason for the people to slow down, because if you're coming up in one of them water break areas, water may still be flowing, but it's extremely rough on some of them areas and really hard on your cars. We cannot plow that ice off. The plows will not get down to the pavement through there. Some areas are barricaded off, But still in those areas, you're going to find rough roads. A lot of reasoning for the pipe break is due to the extreme weather, and it causes ground shift when it freezes. And it'll also do the same in the summer when we have extreme heat and it dries out, and it's due to the soil type in this area. You get movement in the ground and it'll break the pipes.
Megan, this is Michelle with the city. If you can get with us after the news conference, we can get you that information. But our water department is running on 24-hour operations, and we have brought contract crews in to help with the amount of water breaks that we are having now. So if you get with us after this, we'll get you that information.
Michelle, surely you're going to include that in your next update with all the text that you've been sending, right?
Yes, we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Scott with Fox 23. This question, Stan, was a couple of questions. I wanted to make sure I had the numbers right. You said 4,500 people currently with the are in that blackout right now, and 9,000 statewide. Was that what I understood?
That's what it was a few minutes ago when I first reported, but that's changing by the minute. And so that's increased. We have started taking a few more. We are up to a total of about 15,000 customers that we've interrupted. And that includes down in our McAllister district and in our Lawton district, as well as here in the Tulsa district.
Okay, so that was my next question, because I thought it didn't include the Tulsa Metro, but it now does.
It now does.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, my power just went out in the middle of this news conference. So I'm not sure if that's a planned outage or what. I'll follow up with you later, Stan.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
This is Chris Polanski again for Stan. What should folks know who use medical equipment, things like that, that require electricity if they end up being part of a controlled interruption or an outage?
Yeah, the first thing is know whether or not you can ride out an hour to 2 hours, because that's what these controlled interruptions will be. So if you have medical equipment and you can ride it out for a couple of hours, hopefully you'll be just fine. But we always encourage anyone who's on that type of medical equipment to have their own emergency backup plan. If someone you can call, the social service agencies that you can call, and there are probably others on the call who can address that better than me. But that's generally the way that we address that. We want to make sure that that those customers, and that we communicate with them on a regular basis, yearly, to advise them to institute or to have their own plans in place for just these type of things. So hopefully that's the situation for those customers.
Thank you.
If I could add to that, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, just in our analysis and preparation for these outages in Tulsa, the main way that we expect this to impact city services that you would notice is with traffic lights. Traffic lights don't have generators, so if there is a widespread power outage in the area where a traffic light is located, the light will go dark. So we would just encourage folks, as you're driving around, as you approach an intersection, make sure that you see a green before you drive through it. Don't assume that if you don't see a red light that it's good to go. And this is something that all of us will just have to work together in our community to manage as far as driving around town while these outages are going on.